Everyone says how horrible it will be to renovate or build your house. We're here to say it doesn't have to be that way. Join 3 seasoned architects as they interview homeowners who recently completed a large project and ask them one simple question. What do you know now that you wish you knew before you started? Welcome to Home, the Second Story podcast.
Hi, and welcome to Home, the Second Story. We are 3 residential architects sharing real conversations with homeowners who've taken on custom home or renovation projects. If you haven't already, check out our first episode to hear more about us and why we're doing this. I'm Sherry Scott from Springhouse Architects in Cincinnati, and I'm joined by my co-hosts.
I'm Marilyn Modinger of Runcible Studios, based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania and Boston, Massachusetts.
And I am Taylor Davis of TPD Architect in Birmingham, Alabama. And today we are joined by Trevor from Pensacola, Florida. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad you're here. And I'm always glad to have somebody who's kind of in my neck of the woods come on the show, because the issues are clearer to me when we're talking about sort of high humidity weather affected by tornadoes, hurricanes, that sort of thing,
Right.
regions. So when we start out our episodes, we ask 5 quick questions to get our listeners oriented to your project and learn a little bit more about you. So I'm going to blast those through quickly. Where is the project located?
It's in Pensacola. We bought some land and during COVID, and then built right after.
So I'm going to ask a follow-up question. Is it coastal or is it inland?
It's not right on the water, but we can see the water's like right down the road.
Okay,
from the
so
water.
right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Not that there's that far inland in Pensacola, but anyway. Okay, was the project a new build, an addition, or a renovation?
It's a new build.
Okay. And when did you start and when did you move in?
2022, I think January. And then we moved in 2 years later, April 2024.
And what is the size approximately and the style of the project?
The main house is 3,800 square feet. And then we have a little studio above our garage, which is like 600 square feet.
Oh, how fun.
I'm not sure of the style. I actually was thinking about that, and I have no idea.
That's okay.
That's fair. So there are lots of different ways you can work with an architect. Some folks just buy plans, and some people work with an architect for full services from design all the way through construction. So how did you work with an architect on your project?
Yeah, well, we actually worked with, I guess there's some differences here. We worked with a home designer
There we go.
who did a custom plan for us, and he was very good. We really liked working with him. So it wasn't an architect.
Okay.
So the level, and I'm learning really the difference now, but the level of detail involved in what he produced for us was not at the level I'm sure that an architect provides. But he did a great job laying out the house and designing the home.
Well, I'll let Marilyn take over. Thanks for giving us the lowdown.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we start with that? So how did that process work? How did the design process work? And then as you got into it, how did you start making those decisions that, the finishes and the things that the home designer was not providing for you? How did that work?
Well, the way we did it, we started from the outside, just what's the house look like? And that was a lot of, looking at inspo pics, basically collecting kind of things we liked. And we just kind of vomited all that out at our home designer and said,
Perfect.
Here's our
Yes.
family, here's our family size, here are our needs and wants. And he kind of put it all together for us. Yeah. So he did a good job with that aspect of it. And then when we get into like the interior, finishes and stuff like that, we also worked with a interior designer. So she
Right.
was excellent. She was our favorite person. She did everything she said she was going to do, and we were blown away with her.
Yeah, tell us more about that, because I remember from our initial call that came through loud and clear how much you really enjoyed working with your interior designer, and how when there might have been some bumps in the road, spoiler alert, we'll come to that, the interior designer was really helpful. So tell us a little bit about working with her and what was great about that.
I think that first of all, she was very talented. So she was a transplant from California, and she happened to be in town because her husband's military. And so she was only here for a few years, but she like helped design a coffee shop downtown. And we just noticed how, the design was really good. And we asked about who did it. And then we were put in touch with her. And then she just really immediately stood out for just a great creative eye. She kind of had that California style, which we liked, a little bit outside the box for our area. And then just beyond that, she was very committed. She made sure that, everything that we selected was shipped and delivered to us. Any problems that came up, she was always on it. I never had a question or anything that she was doing. So it was one of those people that you can just really trust, and they're going to do what you want them to do.
And at what point in the project did she come in?
She was very early. I think while we were maybe right after we'd finished kind of designing the layout of the home, I think that we met her. And I think we knew we wanted somebody because this was like right on the heels of COVID. And so you had to order like all of your appliances like a year ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
So as soon as we knew we had to start doing that, we were like, okay, well, we need help, picking all this stuff, and who are we going to get to do that? And so we were like, we need someone like an interior designer. And she helped with all of that. Went to the appliance place.
And
with
your
us.
home designer probably didn't even offer that service, right?
No. No, that's kind of where his services ended, was just producing the plans. Yeah.
One question I have about that is, did your interior designer and your home designer ever have was there any back and forth? Did the interior designer say, you know what, the kitchen layout would be so much better if we rotated the island, or if we turned or made this wall different? Like, was there any back and forth like that between them?
None. No, actually. Yeah. That I don't think there were too many like mistakes in that sense. There are some.
Or not necessarily mistakes, just opportunities that an interior designer might see.
There wasn't a lot of back and forth. So I don't really know what that would have unearthed. Potentially some things, for sure.
Sounds like you might not have needed that.
Yeah, I think the designs really were good, well thought out. Because when we originally went to him, we were like, okay, look, I've seen these kind of homes that we like, design wise, and then also here's some plans that I just feel like I like the way they did this. And he was always just like, we could do a lot better than that.
Nice.
So
I'm
glad, yeah. I think people just don't realize how like bad some of these pre-planned things are. Like you can do a lot better. And so that's something we realized with him, which, to his credit, he told us that, and he was right.
Well, how did you find him? I mean, and how did you realize that yourselves? Or had you been through a project before and you knew you wanted to do something other than something off the shelf? Like, how did that come about for you?
I think, Pensacola is a smaller town, and so it's hard to find like, really, really I don't want to say really, really talented people at all, but just it's not a large market,
Right,
and
sure.
there are other larger markets kind of close to us. So a lot of the talent gets drawn to them.
Drawn down 30A a little bit.
Yes. So I had seen this guy's work somewhere, and he was a younger guy, and I kind of, actually we were friends as kids, so I kind of had a connection with him too. But I just reached out to him, and I saw his work. Like, he had designed some homes that I thought were better than, most of the homes I was seeing under construction. So, that's kind of how it started.
Did your designer lead you to a contractor? Did you know who your builder was going to be? How did that process work for you?
I actually found him independent of the home designer. I think he's kind of a known in the community. He's been a builder for a long time. So he was doing work, 30 years ago in the city. So he had a reputation of just being around for a long time.
So I have one other question about the relationship with the builder and the designer. Did your designer have any conversations with your builder prior to or during the construction process?
Some, yeah, not a ton. But a few times there were some conversations, mainly me being like, hey, what do you think about this potential change they want to do?
Did the interior designer with the contractor?
Yes. She was interacting with the contractor a lot, actually. Yeah. I mean, mainly the project manager. But yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So how did the build go? How did it start out?
Yeah, I feel like I want to say, like, Trevor, so far, everything sounds so great.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
know.
So easy
Winning.
and perfect.
Yeah, I've covered all of the good now.
We're going to get to the juicy stuff.
Yeah. Okay, I will throw out one. There's one other really standout great person in the project, and that was we had a custom cabinet maker. Old school guy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And my
Nice.
interior designer found him for us. She was like, let me find her father was a cabinet maker. And so she kind of knew what to look for. So she interviewed him, found him, and he was also standout, wonderful to work with. So our cabinets are beautiful, thanks to him.
Nice.
But after that, everything kind of drops off in terms of a fun project. So I don't know how. I mean, I could talk probably forever about how.
Let's talk about how the project kicked off. Was there anything instrumental there that kind of made you realize, and at what point did you realize, we might be in trouble here?
Yeah, it was pretty quickly. I think we were right on the heels of COVID. COVID was still affecting the supply chain at this point. So like appliances were still a year out. Windows were like 6 months out. Even framing packages were delayed. And we also just happened to hit at the very peak of lumber right before they started dramatically coming down.
That was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was kind of like, well, if we wait 6 months, maybe we'll save some money. But, it was like, well, then we're waiting 6 months and that would have created all these other problems. So when framing came back like way more expensive than we thought, I was immediately like, okay, this is interesting. Because that was one of the biggest upfront costs was the framing package.
Yeah.
And so that was a bit of a like, all right, this project's going to almost certainly go over budget. And that proved to be true. But I wasn't aware, I think, at the beginning until that happened, where I was like, okay, these are just estimates of costs.
Oh, sure. Yeah. What kind of contract did you have? Was it cost plus?
It was a cost plus, yeah.
Okay.
He actually, our builder, and I'm not sure how common this was at the time, but because of the crazy inflation that was happening, he was only doing cost plus contracts at that time.
Yeah, very common.
I have my own feelings about that. I understand why he did that, but I feel like one of the big takeaways was even if you're working with people who are high quality and trustworthy, you really need to have aligned incentives, I think. And so cost plus contracts, I think, kind of take away a little bit of that incentive alignment because you can just go over too easily.
Most of our contractors for any custom home always do cost plus, but there are some things you learn the builders that are more responsible with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I could see that because I talked to other builders who do the same thing, and they were telling me the difference in how they handle it. And I was like, oh, that would have been
right.
Nice,
Yeah, there's also provisions you can put in the contract, so it's not just a blank check. But, I also want to just say that when you're in the heat of battle like that and it's post-COVID and you're trying to figure things out, like things can unravel pretty quickly. So it's understandable why that might, how quickly that can kind of, like I said, unravel, I guess.
Yeah, and it did for us. It was pretty fast that we ended up being like, I want to say 50% over budget. So it was a significant amount.
50, like 50.
Yeah. It was a significant amount of money. And some of that was like us choosing things.
Sure, like maybe adding things.
Yeah, but probably maybe half of that is generous, So maybe 25% over what it should have been. But whatever,
Do you blame that on COVID or do you think it was a bad relationship?
Well, I think the contractor could have done a better job with the financial side of it, which would have meant to me getting more, like there's no reason the framing quote couldn't have been accurate. You can get a very precise, easy framing quote. So the fact that was off kind of indicated to me that he wasn't actually getting quotes. He was just going based on what he felt. So that was kind of the first indicator to me that like, oh, he didn't actually speak to, do a lot of the.
Oh, Yeah, and during COVID, everything was changing so fast
Yeah.
that you can't go by historical data. Still, I feel like still you can't. Everybody needs to get real hard quotes. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So that was a big thing that happened pretty quickly. And then the
Uh-huh.
second big thing that happened quickly was windows. Selecting windows, because we had to do that pretty soon, and we had all the sizes and everything, and it was like, okay, go select the windows. But I really didn't like the company we worked with, and Florida's already unique because of the hurricane, like the
Yep.
codes we have here.
Yeah.
So the windows have to be like crazy tolerant to wind, and so you basically have to buy impact windows. But what ends up happening is the bigger window companies, they're making these huge plastic, PVC windows that just, they're very not nice looking,
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's I learned so much about windows in this process, like way more than I ever wanted to know. Yeah. But it's just, that is one thing I wish I could go back and be like, I really should have talked to somebody who really understands windows, and like,
Mm.
it's not just reading the spec sheet. Like, there are different things you got to pay attention to that affect the light that comes in your home. So I wish I had an expert that would have helped me with that a little bit, because I felt like really like kind of under the gun, like you need to order these now so they're not delayed, but I didn't know what I was looking for.
Yeah, I think that's where an architect does come in, because that is kind of outside what an interior designer can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally outside. But yeah, you're right. It's a good point, because if you're just looking at the spec sheet, that's one thing. But also if you go to the manufacturer's showroom, which I encourage people to do, so you can test out the windows and see how everything looks. At the same time, that person is going to be telling you how great those windows are, and not necessarily helping you find the best product for the performance and the look that you're going for. So
We didn't even have a showroom to go to. That's how
yeah.
like out in the wild we were. But I like learned like so much like about how like thick I don't know what you call them, but like the surround of the window, when you put them in, how like
Yeah, the sash. Yeah.
yeah, it's so like some of them, they're so thick, and then when they open, they're like even thicker. So you're
Yeah.
losing a ton of like visibility through your windows. So that's something that like you would immediately notice the difference if you're looking at it in person. But just ordering it from a catalog, you don't have any idea. And then also like the light reflectivity, whatever the UV blocking, it can
Right.
really darken the light that comes in. So I remember when we first had them installed, and we were walking through the house, and still framing, and just being like, oh my gosh, it's so dark in our dining room now,
Yeah.
because we have these really efficient windows. But it was not necessary, because they faced the back of our house. They didn't get a lot of sun directly into them, so just stuff like that I felt an expert would have helped us avoid. And they weren't cheap windows. These are like impact windows, so it's always frustrating.
It also sounds like you are a detail-oriented person. Like, you're noticing these things where maybe a lot of people would not walk into that room and say, oh, it feels a little dark in here. Oh, look at the
Right.
size of the rails or the styles or the sashes or whatever. So it sounds like you're a little more dialed into some of those details and seeing some of those details.
Yes. That's why I drove everyone crazy.
No, you're allowed to do that. It's your house.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice all that kind of stuff. It was very frustrating for the project manager.
Yeah. I don't know. You're allowed to want things to be the way you want them.
Thank you for validating me.
100%.
Appreciate that.
I mean, especially if you're like getting into the specifics of windows like that. I mean, what I haven't heard you say is something like, I expected the windows to be 20 feet long with no whatever. Like, you're not asking for things that are crazy.
Right.
You're just wanting to understand how things function or what the impact of the decisions are going to be on the space. And that is totally allowed and encouraged.
And I'm curious, how did your builder handle selections, the windows, and then all of the other decisions you had to make? Was it a situation where basically he gave you a list and you had to go find everything, or did he walk you through the process?
Pretty much it depended on the thing we were selecting, but for the most part we had to find everything. Yeah. I mean, even like flooring, I mean, I looked at probably over 24 wood flooring samples. And we ended up not using any of them. And I just called my designer, who had at this point already moved back to California because the project was so delayed,
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a year and it was twice that. But anyway, so I just emailed her. I was like, hey, we can't decide on the flooring. She's like, I know perfect flooring. I have somebody out in California, and we had it shipped from California. So the builder was not involved really in any of that. Our home designer was even connecting us with suppliers for everything, which made sense because she couldn't get the stuff that she wanted from like local, tile and flooring companies.
Yeah, that's hard. So, so the project lasted for 2 years instead of one, and your interior designer had to leave.
Yes.
And go move.
Yeah. And we had known she was leaving, but we figured it would be after.
You figured
the
you'd be done.
Right.
Yeah.
That it sounds like that put more things on your plate during construction than otherwise would have been on your plate, because she would have been there to handle a lot of it.
Yeah. And she would have probably noticed things, happening during, but I was there pretty much. And at that point, once the material selection, and she was still available to us remotely.
Yeah.
But but I was on site like every other day, basically, watching over things. And at that, it was a ton of work. And actually, near the end of the project, I was totally burned out. And I basically told my wife, who wanted to be here today, but couldn't make it today. She just took over because I was like, I'm done. I can't make any more decisions. And so the last 6 months or so, she really stepped up and did like everything. So that was really great. We kind of tag teamed it.
Yeah, that's the best. Yeah, good.
So it was okay with her doing that. That helped a lot.
Well, when we initially talked, and I wrote a quote down in my notes, and you can tell me if it's okay to leave this in, but you had said that there was trauma in every room.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to elaborate on that if you'd like to.
Oh man. Well, it's like for the first year after moving in, it was not relaxing to be in the house. It was, and there's always stuff that's not done, where you're like, okay, we have to finish furnishing this room or whatever. But it was almost like you're walking through this project that's taken 2 years, and now you're just trying to live in it. And so there was a whole year where we were just on edge.
Yeah.
And so we go in the room, and I just remember, man, we should have done that differently. And then it was be something like that was such a huge hassle for no reason, So every room has little hard memories, but over time we've kind of forgotten them, and that's good.
That is good.
Yeah. So there's still things that bother me, but not so many. But it was like in the process, like I had to catch a lot, and be like, no, don't do it that way. So that was a lot of work, but I'm glad and it was very frustrating, but I'm glad I pushed for those things now.
Could you give us an example of something that you're talking about? Like, I think that's helpful for people to hear kind of the things that you were looking for as you were on the site walking through the project.
Oh, yeah. I can actually give you a perfect example, and it's a small thing, but I think it kind of is a good example of this. We have, wood flooring in most of the house. We have like a little gym room that has rubber flooring. We have tile in the bathrooms. And so we have like a brick flooring in the laundry room. So we have some transitions between floorings. And one of the things I noticed immediately that we didn't really talk about was that every one of those transitions, the builder will just, with the wood and the tile, and then put a wood trim piece on top of it to separate them.
Like a saddle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's the easiest thing to do. It takes, no time. You don't got to line anything up. And as soon as I saw that was their plan, I was like, we are not doing that in any room for any transition. And it takes a little bit more work to use like a little Schluter piece or even go flush, but like it looks a million times better, and it doesn't take much more work. So it's just like, you have to do this. So I just forced them. I was like, I don't want that on any single transition. So that's a really good example of that dynamic where it's like, you have to specify, because otherwise they will do the thing that's just a little bit easier and quicker.
Yep.
And it's not that much more money. It's not that much more time, but you really got to know ahead of time, like, hey, this is how I want it. So that was one of the things that was happening as our interior designer was not here either. So she probably would have caught that like quicker, but I did see that. Yeah.
How did you communicate with your builder? Did you end up with written documentation, or was it walking through once a week with him? Did you end up with some systems that you cobbled together?
We would meet once a week and go through things. After a while, like I wish I had done this consistently, which was email everything, everything in writing, like
Everything in writing.
because I was just trusting him to remember,
Yes.
So what I should have done is like, hey, great meeting. Here's a complete recap of everything you're going to do. And that way I have it like, hey, I told you to do this. So that's one thing I definitely would have done more consistently. I did it near the end because I was realizing things were falling between the cracks. But I wish I had done that the whole time.
Well, I mean, you want to trust your builder. Like it feels like maybe, you're like, do I really have to rewrite this? Do I really have to? But even with everyone with the best intentions, there's so many moving parts on a project that having things written down. I'm famous for my meeting minutes. Every week we do these exhaustive meeting minutes. And it's seriously one of the most mundane, but also crucial things that we do for that exact reason. Even when everyone has the best intentions. And it sounds like there were enough hiccups that maybe it wasn't everybody having the clearest, path through. So yeah, I want to underline that for our listeners. Stuff in writing.
Yeah, that's definitely a good tip, actually. Write everything in writing. Yeah. And what was another example of it? Oh, it seems like everything with transitions was always like a sticking point. Like not a sticking point, but like something to pay attention to elevate, like with baseboards. It's another good example. I had to be like, look, no shoe mold, and so that they want to put shoe mold on everything because then doesn't matter the order, they can put the baseboards in first and then the flooring.
Right.
But I was like, no shoe mold. So then they had to put the flooring in first and then the trim, which isn't a big deal, like that's totally normal. But it's one of those things you really got to know and insist upon it. And so that was another thing. And then another one was, this is still a pain point, is we have, all our windows are beautiful black windows and we have white brick exterior. And I show up one day and they had caulked all of around the windows, to seal them in. This is probably like the last week before we move into the house. And it is just like the messiest black caulk all around. And I just saw it and I almost cried. it was just like, because it just destroyed, having that bad transition from one material type to another just completely destroys what you're trying to do. That was another thing. And it's always the same. It's like some they put caulk really badly where they shouldn't, or they put a piece of, trim board to hide a flooring transition, or they put a shoe mold. It's like little cheats,
And that stuff adds up in a house. And I think the last thing that anyone would ever want to hear is that you drive up to your house and feel like you're going to cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also there's a good point in there about if you say something like, please caulk that transition, that can either yield a beautifully caulked seam that does its job technically, but is also aesthetically properly done. Or it can be like some guy with like the caulk gun that's actually got the tip cut off like it's like he's icing a cake and it's just like squirting everywhere and with like a spoon. And he's like, so, I mean, I think that even in that sentence, caulk this transition, there's a wide spectrum of ability in there. And that's when it matters to have a good GC who's watching his guys.
Yeah. And this, I remember when they did it, it was like, it wasn't even one of the window guys. It was just a helper they had, there. And so he just did it. And it's like, oh my gosh. And yeah, it's like, it needs to be caulked. It has to, I get that. But like, you guys, like,
you can do it well.
There's a way to do that right.
Did they pull it out and fix it?
No, it's still there.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Trevor,
I know. I just don't look too close.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. If it were me, if I could do it, I would. The windows are such a sore spot for me that I try not to think about it too much. One thing I did do right is I didn't have, like, when you have windows that they're like casement windows, so they open like that. So I didn't make every window like operable. I was like, all right, let's just do the ones we really want to open. And the one benefit of that is that the sash, I think you said, is much thinner.
Much thinner.
Yeah.
That's
so,
right.
So the windows I didn't do that with, I'm like, they look better overall than the other ones. The ones that open are like huge, bulky little things. So I'm glad we did that. It wasn't even really the cost difference. It was just I liked the way they looked. They looked a little bit more. They made the window bigger.
Yeah, a little more elegant, a little more. Yeah, exactly.
So, Trevor, it sounds like it was a tough project that, some of those things have lingered. For people that are listening to learn from your pain, maybe, is there one point or one big decision you made that you wish you would have known something that you know now?
I'm not sure if there's one thing. I mean, I guess, one of the frustrations we have with building with the home we have is like, it's very beautiful. There's two things I think we could have done a little bit better. And I think we did 90% of everything right. So I'm pretty happy with our outcome, but could have been less stressful. But one thing we did wrong is I think we didn't build, not every room is built like for the way we use it, and I don't know how you can predict that any better than we did. But like I have a nice office, but I need to spend some time, to make it really more functional. And we have a gym, in our home, which is great, but it's pretty small. I wish we had made it a little bit bigger so we had, it was more fun to be in there. So it's things like that. But I think the overall, like if there's just one piece of advice, it would be just find somebody to help you who's on your side and you completely trust to walk with you the entire way, because that will make the difference between it being a terrible and great experience for you. You need an advocate who's on your side. Without a doubt, the most important thing, I will never build another home again without somebody like an architect who just is thinking about all these details and has their background and is going to be with me from the beginning to when we draw the contract to the end when we move in. Like that's the number one thing for me now.
Well, are you ever going to build again, or was this it?
I a year ago I would have said absolutely not, but like I think I know enough now to avoid. I know what the problems are.
Yeah,
right.
So, to kind of avoid the stress problems, I think.
Well, and all that hard won knowledge,
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like I was actually expecting you to maybe reference back to when you chose your builder, because a lot of the stress seems to come from the builder that you chose.
Yes.
And maybe in your location, there wasn't a better option. But what do you think about that? Could there have been a better process to choose your builder?
I think so. Yeah. I would have done. I mean, these are kind of detailed things, but like I would have done a better contract.
Okay.
I talked to an attorney after the fact, and he was like, "Yeah, this is the standard contract that I would recommend for people, doing a cost plus or any kind of construction project. It's very fair." So he told me that, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, I should have done that, which was stupid." But I think even with that, it would have been a fight with the particular builder that we had. But I also don't think that he was like the worst builder or anything like that, So I think the bones of the home are well done. There's no major issues with like plumbing or electrical or anything like that.
And it doesn't sound like he was dishonest, right? We've heard some terrible stories of dishonesty.
Yeah, he wasn't dishonest. I wouldn't call him dishonest. I think he was a little bit, I wouldn't even say negligent, but just, you shouldn't be coming in 30% over budget. Like that's way too much,
Yes.
So picking a builder is very, very important too. I don't have any particular advice on how to do that well, other than I think talking to the people that he's built homes for maybe would be the right approach.
References.
As long as they're done.
Yeah, references. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Well, we always like to end on a positive note. So, and you've kind of hinted at some of this already, but I'd love to hear what some of the things are that, unlike the caulk, that you see every time and you're like, yes, I love this. This is a great part of the house. I'm really happy about this part, this experience in the house. The good stuff.
There's a lot of that, actually,
Good.
A lot of the stuff that brings us like joy is like things, that are materials, flooring that our interior designer picked out, or,
Yeah.
cabinet details that our cabinet maker did.
Yeah.
We have a playroom in the house for the boys where they do all their schoolwork and have all their toys and stuff. And our cabinet maker put some built-ins, similar to these, like across. And then I actually built the butcher block top for it.
Oh, nice.
It was really long, so I had to like join two pieces of wood together. So it was like the only thing in the entire house that I had any hand in. But I made that.
Besides the management of the entire
so
thing.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
That's not good. Yeah. So that I'm proud of because I contributed to it. But other than that, like our favorite rooms are the upstairs rooms. Because they're like in the trees, and so
Yeah.
like
Nice.
the little studio we have above the garage is like an oasis. It's surrounded by oak trees. It's high up. It's very
pretty.
quiet. We have like family and guests come and stay there a lot. So that room brings us a lot of joy, and we're happy to have it. We've a lot of people have been blessed to come and just stay and relax for a weekend in it. So it's just a nice, cute little space. So I like that room a lot. And then we have a guest room inside the house that has really, really big windows. It faces the back of the house. And that is just tons of natural light. And we love that room too. So ironically, it's the two rooms that we don't personally use that we like the
Right? Darn it.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to move my office in there somehow.
There you go. You
there
could.
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, I really appreciate it, Trevor. I appreciate your all this juicy info and your forthright analysis of all that you've been through. Really help our listeners. So, really appreciate your generosity in sharing.
Yeah, sure.
And so glad you could join us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Wow, so many things. I have so many notes we can talk about.
Yeah, that sounded like a tough one
Yeah.
for him and his wife. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, the overarching of like, they're happy and ended up, more or less, they're happy in the house and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't have to be like that, And I think when I hear stories like Trevor's, I'm just like, this is why we're doing this podcast. Right?
Yes. And he didn't really identify it, but it sure seems to me like he just had the wrong builder. The
Yeah.
wrong builder for his personality, for his style, for who he hired to design the house, his situation with the interior designer, how much help he expected. It sounded like expectations were not met or discussed. So I think it all goes back to the very beginning and choosing a team. And thank goodness he found that interior designer that gave him some relief.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, Sherry, about that a builder, it isn't just that a builder is a bad builder or a good builder, but are they a good fit for you and your project? And that even projects that I have builders I often work with over and over, or my clients often work with over and over, but they aren't the best fit for every client. There's whether it's personality or skill or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is completely fine. But I think that's most people are just looking at cost and they're not necessarily looking at the personality or the processes of the builder. And they should. Just looking here at my notes of what he said that I wanted to underline 12 times. There's so many things. One of them we've talked about before is the builder will do what is easiest for them. The subcontractors will do what is easiest for them unless they are asked to do something else. And again, that's not necessarily malicious. If they aren't given a transition detail to go between tile and wood floor, they're not going to choose something custom, or they're not going to do a strip of Schluter. They're going to do the sort of the saddle threshold that is just the norm, and not do that next level. So I think that's why our drawing sets are that we have so many details in them, because we're asking them to do things that aren't just the off-the-shelf thing.
If it's important to you, it's important to make sure that it happens. If you're okay with things defaulting to the norm, there may be some cost savings associated with that. But for sure, you want to articulate if those particular details on the main level or around the windows or whatever that is are important, that needs to get communicated, period. End of story.
But he doesn't even know to communicate that, right? So it goes back again to who's drawing the drawings and developing the details. And if you don't develop the details, if you hire a home designer who draws the house, designs the house, does a nice job designing, and then ships it off and never sees it again, then you need to pick an interior designer that's going to follow up and stay the whole project, or pick a builder that does those details, but goes back to so many conversations we've had. You don't know what you don't know until you know, until you see it. When he walked in and he saw that transition, he's like, oh, I didn't say what I wanted, but now I know I don't want that. And who knew that you had to say, do a good job on the caulk outside? Like it's just.
Well, and my clients, when we talk a lot about decision fatigue and just how many decisions are needed in a project. And sometimes my clients, like in the middle of a big design session, we're working through a bunch of things and they'll kind of stop and they'll look at me and they'll go, I had no idea I didn't even know about this. And now you're asking me to make a decision about how the tile and the whatever. And it's said in like this kind of funny way. They're like, I had no idea this was even a decision I had to make. I thought I was just picking out the faucets and the tile and we're done. And that is not the case. And so as an architect, part of what, and we do full interiors and you guys do too. I know that too. And part of what we're doing is helping people thread the needle on the things. There's plenty of decisions that my clients might not be interested in getting in the weeds on. And my job is getting to know them and understanding that they're just like, they don't want to know all that. They just want, if I show them a picture of one of our previous projects and I'm like, is this the vibe? And they're like, yes. Then I say, okay, great. These are the tile transitions. These are the whatever. I already can tell. But it is important, somebody has to draw it, or the builder is going to do whatever he wants. I think that goes to another point that he made that I underlined in the episode, but want to underline again, getting things in writing.
Yes, right. During the build process. Mm-hmm. And during the interview, to ask the builder how they handle documentation. And if they have no way to do it, that's a red flag.
That's a red flag. One of the things I learned back when I was contracting, when I was a PM at a contractor, which I was before I was an architect. So that's a lot of the processes that I do are based in the fact that I came from that world. And one of the things that we used to do is when there were changes so he was mentioning the budget and how they went over budget, but some of those decisions were because of things they wanted. So we would, in a change order log, or, basically a change order log, there's a column in the log that says initiated by. So that then later we could say, yes, we were 15% over budget, but 9 out of 10 of the change orders were because you changed your mind and wanted to upgrade something. There was only 10% of them were things that were based in, a mistake that we made or, something we needed to fix. So it's actually important to track that and to understand. That's a comment for builders, for owners and whatever. A lot of things can get lost in your impression of how things are going instead of the actual data of what's actually going on. And that can cost you a lot of money if you're not tracking things carefully.
I don't know many builders that track that decision, but it's a great idea. It is. And of course, the thing I'm sure we all underlined was him saying, find an advocate, have an advocate, hire an architect, pay them to work through construction with you. It just works as a triangle to have builder, architect, owner. Just works.
Well, and how about all of that time that he had to spend on this project and got to the point where he's like, I can't do this anymore. His wife tagged in.
Tap in.
I mean, they have kids, they have jobs, they have lives. They're living not in their house. Their stuff is everywhere. That has a real cost. And to say, well, I saved money, and he didn't say this, but we hear it a lot. Well, I don't want to pay an architect because I can do all that. You're not trained. You don't have decades of experience. So no, you can't actually do it to the same level. Just like I can't do their job to their level, right? Like I don't know how to do their job. But the other part of that is that time has a real value. And I'm sure it affected his work and his, family time and all that kind of stuff. And Boy, oh boy, if you're thinking like, would I pay an architect to take this all off my plate and save me money by making sure that we weren't making these mistakes? I mean, our fees basically paid for. So
For sure.
thank you so much for joining us on Home the Second Story. If you'd like to come on our show and share your story, we'd love to have you. Please email us at admin@htsspodcast.com. We'd love to have you on as a guest. For more inspiring homeowner stories and tips, we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Home, the Second Story podcast. Feel free to share this episode with a friend. Contact information for all three of our architects are in our show notes. And don't miss future episodes. Follow or subscribe to our show for free in Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening right now.